She wanted space, time, clarity. So I gave her all three and a year's worth of days to miss me. People always ask me what happened between me and Vanessa, as if relationships crumble all at once, as if love snaps like a twig instead of decaying slowly, quietly, under the weight of things left unsaid. The truth? She didn't leave me, not really. She paused me. "It's not goodbye," she had said, her voice soft like she was cushioning the blow. "I just need some time to figure things out. No promises, no explanations. Just that vague limbo people create when they want out, but not the guilt of actually closing the door." So I nodded. Didn't argue, didn't cry, just listened, memorized the exact timbre of her voice when she said time, and went home. That same night I pulled out a blank calendar, not a digital one, a real one, paper, clean, 12 thick months laid out in front of me. I didn't mark anything dramatic, just a small check mark every single day, quiet, methodical, like clockwork, like healing. Not once did I text her. Not for birthdays, holidays, or anniversaries. Not even when I passed by our favorite cafe and smelled her perfume in the air like a ghost. I gave her exactly what she asked for. Time. In the silence, I rebuilt, focused on my body, sharpened my mind, reacquainted myself with things I had abandoned when I started revolving around her orbit. I relearned how to enjoy my own company, how to cook for one, how to walk into a room without wondering who she was texting. I dated no one, slept with no one, but not out of loyalty, out of choice. Because if I was going to reclaim myself, it wouldn't be halfway. Somewhere in month 7, I realized I didn't miss her anymore. Not the real her anyway, just the idea, the echo of who I thought she was. That realization came like a quiet sunrise, not a thunderclap. And with it came peace. So when day 365 arrived, I printed that calendar. Every day checked, the last one stamped in red ink, too late. I packaged it in a sleek black envelope. No note, no message, just the calendar, just the silence. It arrived at her apartment in the early afternoon. I know because she messaged me that night. "Marcus, can we talk?" I saw the preview flash on my phone. Her name, her voice in my head. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I had already said everything I needed to say 365 times without a single word. And the final message was silence. The thing about vague breakups is that they don't come with an earthquake. No slamming doors, no screaming matches, no drama to frame the moment. Just a gentle unraveling disguised as kindness. Vanessa chose a Saturday afternoon. We were sitting on the edge of her couch, the one she picked out in that muted oatmeal color she said made her feel calm. She didn't even look me in the eye at first, just traced her fingertip along the rim of her coffee mug like she was waiting for the words to come from the steam. I don't know where my head is lately," she said softly. "Things are complicated. I think I just need time." That's how she said it. Not "we need time," not "let's take a break, I need time." Like a solo mission she was embarking on, and I was just background noise she needed to mute for a while. I didn't interrupt her, didn't ask what she was figuring out. I'd already learned that when someone says they need space, they've already imagined life without you. They just don't have the courage to make it official yet. So I did what I do best. I listened. She paused after that line, like she expected me to protest, to plead for clarity, for something definitive. But I didn't give her that. I gave her silence. I gave her a nod. And that was all. What she didn't realize was that in that moment she handed me something far more valuable than closure. She gave me control. Her non-decision became my decision. That night, while the tea she didn't finish still sat on the counter, I opened my drawer and pulled out a fresh wall calendar. It was one of those simple ones. Clean squares, no quotes, no images, just dates, just time. I marked the first day with a single black dot. A beginning. I didn't do it with bitterness. I wasn't planning revenge. I just understood that sometimes the clearest messages are delivered without confrontation. From that day on, I changed the direction of my energy. I removed her number from my phone, not blocked, just erased. I archived our photos into a folder I wouldn't open. I unfollowed her on everything, not to hurt her, but to free myself from the constant drip of digital reminders. Each morning became a ritual. Coffee, journaling, the gym, and a single mark on the calendar. The check became a signal, not of waiting, but of progress. I wasn't counting down to her return. I was counting forward, toward myself. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing. There was no speech, no declaration, just quiet recalibration. I shifted my focus toward things that had been neglected, work projects I used to be passionate about, hobbies I had shelved, books I had bought but never opened. I started running again, not for speed but for silence, for space in my mind that had been crowded with second-guessing for too long. It wasn't about making her jealous, it wasn't about her at all. It was about reclaiming the parts of myself I had compromised to keep her comfortable. Meanwhile, friends who didn't know the full story would ask me if I'd heard from her. "She's probably just figuring things out," they'd say, trying to reassure me. I would just nod. But the truth was, I already knew what she was figuring out, whether I was worth the effort, and by the time she'd make up her mind, the answer would be sealed in ink. On the last page of that calendar, she assumed I'd be waiting, frozen in some emotional purgatory, refreshing my messages, hoping she'd return. She didn't know that silence could be a sanctuary, and that while she took her time, I was building my own ending, and this time it would be on my terms. The first few weeks were the hardest, not because I missed Vanessa, but because the silence was loud. Not texting her felt unnatural at first, like I was trying to ignore a part of my own brain. I would reach for my phone instinctively during a lunch break or at night when the house got too quiet. But every time I felt that urge, I reminded myself, she wanted time, and now I was giving her all of it. I didn't fill the silence with distractions, no flings, no drunken nights out trying to mask what was missing. Instead, I turned inward. I picked up old habits I had let fade during the relationship. I started waking up earlier, hitting the gym before sunrise. I read books that challenged me, philosophy, psychology, even poetry. I was done drowning in ambiguity. I wanted clarity, discipline, and focus. The calendar became my anchor. Every day I marked it with a small, deliberate X. At first it was a quiet ritual. Later it became something more, an act of power, of presence. It wasn't just about counting days. It was about honoring the life I was choosing for myself. Around month 3, I stopped thinking about Vanessa every day. Her face no longer hovered in the background of my thoughts. By month 5, I could pass by her favorite cafe without remembering how she always ordered her latte too sweet. By month 6, her birthday came and went. I started traveling again. Short trips, solo adventures. A weekend hiking trip in Montana. A solo drive up the coast, where I didn't check my phone for 3 full days. I found that I was happier in my own company than I ever remembered being while waiting around for someone else's confusion to clear. Work took off. I earned a promotion without even chasing it. My team said I seemed sharper, more focused. I didn't tell them that heartbreak had forced me into stillness, and stillness had given me perspective. I had stopped reacting to life and started directing it. Friends began noticing the change. "You seem different, man, stronger, clearer." They thought I had met someone new. I hadn't. I didn't need to. I was rediscovering the version of myself that didn't chase half-hearted love, the one who didn't wait in doorways someone else refused to close. I didn't wonder if Vanessa was dating, didn't check her socials, didn't ask around. That part of me, the part that once feared being forgotten, had quietly died, and in its place grew something steadier. Self-respect. As the days ticked by, that calendar filled. Line by line, square by square, I turned her vague pause into a clean, final sentence. I was no longer waiting for a text that might never come. I was writing an ending she would never expect. Not with anger, not with vengeance, just with time. And when the final day approached, I already knew what I would do with it. The final day arrived with no fanfare, just a cold, clear morning and the quiet hum of my espresso machine. I stood in the kitchen holding my coffee, staring at the calendar that had grown heavier with meaning every single day. There it was, day 365, a perfect row of days marked with quiet intent. No gaps, no second thoughts. Just a single red stamp I had pressed into the final square a week earlier. Too late. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt still. There was no bitterness left in me, only closure, the kind that doesn't come from confrontation but from consistency. The calendar had done its job. It hadn't just tracked time, it had turned silence into sculpture, something physical and undeniable. I took the pages off the wall carefully, placing them in order, flattening any creases. Each one was a record of my restraint, a daily refusal to chase someone who had already walked away, in spirit, if not in words. Then I brought them to the print shop. I didn't want anything flashy. I asked for clean white pages bound in matte black, minimalist, elegant, no cover photo, no branding, just 365 days, each one marked with the same deliberate X, until the last page, where the ink bled red. Too late. They looked at me curiously when I picked it up. I didn't offer an explanation. Some gifts don't come with stories, just wait. Back home, I boxed the calendar in a minimalist cardboard sleeve, unmarked and smooth. I didn't write a letter. I didn't include a note. I sealed the package with clean black tape, printed her name and address in quiet block letters and dropped it off at the courier. No signature required, just delivery confirmation. It was mailed mid-morning. I knew her building's mailroom schedule. She would get it around 2 p.m. She'd open it, probably expecting something sentimental, some gesture of longing, maybe even an apology for the silence. But instead, she'd get 365 reminders of the exact thing she asked for. Not a poem, not a plea. Just time. I spent the rest of the day unplugged. I turned my phone off, went for a run, and ended the evening surrounded by laughter at a rooftop dinner with friends. The kind of night that felt light, weightless. It wasn't until late that night that I turned my phone back on. One message lit up the screen. "Marcus, can we talk?" I didn't need to read more. I didn't open it, because the calendar had already delivered the only message that mattered. It spoke in silence, in pages turned, in days counted down to nothing. She had asked for time. I gave it to her. Now, all that remained was the most honest part of all, an unopened message. Vanessa held the calendar in her hands like it might break if she gripped it too hard. It was heavier than she expected, the weight of it disproportionate to its size. The packaging was clean, sharp, no note, no explanation, just her name printed in his exacting handwriting, neat, calculated, unmistakably Marcus. She opened it slowly, her breath catching as the first page revealed a single marked day. Then the next, and the next. All marked. Every single one of them, 365 boxes, 365 deliberate strokes. A full year accounted for. Without her. It wasn't angry, it wasn't bitter. That's what shook her the most. He hadn't sent this to hurt her. He had sent it to end something. Officially, quietly, and completely. When she reached the final page, her fingers trembled. The last square wasn't empty like she had expected. It was bold, stamped in red, centered perfectly in the square with all the precision Marcus was known for. Just 2 words. Too late. She stared at those words for a long time, her throat tightening. This wasn't a plea. It wasn't a passive-aggressive message. It was closure, distilled down to its purest form. A man who refused to be held in limbo. A man who waited with dignity and walked away with the same. She had assumed he would linger, that the door she left ajar would always creak open if she knocked gently enough. But he hadn't locked the door. He'd bricked it shut, day by day, quietly, with discipline and grace. And now, on the other side, he was gone. That night, unable to stop herself, she typed the message. "Marcus, can we talk?" She stared at it for 10 minutes before hitting send. Somewhere, she thought, he must still feel something, some flicker, some unresolved thread she could pull on. But Marcus was already elsewhere. He was on a rooftop in the city, glass in hand, laughter rising from a group of friends as music drifted through the air. His phone buzzed once. He glanced down at it, saw her name, saw the words. He didn't smile, he didn't wince. He simply pressed and held the notification, then slid his thumb across the screen. Delete it. No drama, no flare of emotion, just a decision. Later that night, back at his apartment, Marcus walked past the now empty space on the wall where the calendar had hung. He didn't need it anymore. The ritual was over. What remained now was a life fully his again, quiet, whole, and unburdened. Vanessa sat alone on her couch, staring at the calendar on her lap, running her hand across the pages as if the paper could speak back, but it said nothing. It had already said everything. No answer was the answer, and that was the end.